So here's Mike Weller and Films to begin.
There was a bit of homegrown trouble in one day-to-be Surrey city of Croydon just after World War II. A policeman was fatally shot and local folks campaigned against Derek Bentley's death sentence for murdering a policeman. He was hung for the crime. The judge and jury had to decide if Bentley yelled from a Croydon rooftop, "Let him have it, Chris," as plea to gun-holding youth Chris to hand the weapon over to the police, or was it a command by Derek for the youth to shoot? Bentley's family knew the boy wouldn't say boo to a goose. Christopher Eccleston played Bentley in the film. Croydon locations were shot in Liverpool and Berkshire for the movie. A number 12 bus is viewed with South Croydon, Camberwell Penge on its destination. Minimus post-ode poem. I won't read the entire poem because that would take up probably 15 or 20 minutes, but I will read the introduction and Minimus notes for August the 13th, 2014. Opening in the main part of a small urban shopping street in November 2011, place code is read through a facade of shop fronts, advertisements, illuminated signs and displays during a period of 2 years. Reading continues through several changes of property use, various premise refurbishments, shopfront alterations, and different signs. The reading begins and ends in public houses on opposite sides and opposite ends of its main thoroughfare, closing November 2013 with this composition and subsequent publication as object outside its place code and time. I, Minimus of Penge, to you. Evening performance advertised at the Crooked Billet Public House. 7 top stand-up comedians will entertain you tonight. There's one performer and 6 people in the audience. The stand-ups are performing comedy routines for each other. Linguistically innovative poets may be familiar with this provenance. Minimus knows, August 13th, 2014. Wok Express changed the Yummy House Chinese takeaway and noodle bar after reading and publication. Ego closed with added signage. Prime retail unit, leased for sale. Check Centre adds customer notice. From the 1st of April 2014, this store will no longer be offering payday loans. We apologise for any inconvenience this may cause. Gold Stores Limited pawnbrokers remove payday advance £500 cash, now replacing it with cheque cashing. Discount jewellers. Goddess Boutique changed to Diosa in May 2014. Emmanuel Charity Shop premises vacant. Penge Discount Centre now missing P, E, N, G, E, D, I, S, O, U, N, T, C, E, N, T, leaving re. Penge Catering Equipment Household Centre, retail wholesale available now, missing E, Q, N, with letter T rotated upside down. STEM Harvest was the last publication published by Writers Forum before Bob Cobbin's death. It's now, it was reprinted a couple of years ago as a zine, so it's gone from a Writers Forum format, printed by Cobbin. I don't think he liked this. Don't ask me why. I think it's probably because it's actually got nature poems on it, but it hasn't been catalogued under a Writers Forum publication. The other interesting thing about Writers Forum is that they put colons in where colons didn't exist before. I'll come on to another example of that. But STEM Harvest has got no colon. Yes, I've opened it at Nature Bar. I do Nature Boy. This lamb, this Finn Dorset lamb, cloned from a single adult cell, containing from its nucleus the DNA code. By the rivers of DNA. The sheep's udder, Scottish, black-faced ewe, genetic code from one embryo, microscopic material, meganomorag from embryo cells. Wordsworth's pet lamb, pastoral posts, code. The dew was falling fast, the stars begin to blink. No sheep nor kine were near, the lamb was all alone. This design without a designer, this predisposition instinct prescribed replicators, the bee, I've provided myself good. Natural selection is not chance. This kin selection, this genetic inheritance, this feudalistic family, Mother Nature's chain of being, Wordsworth's pastoral post. Oh, nature is peace. I heard a voice. It said, "Drink, pretty creature, drink." And by a slender cord was tethered to a stone with one knee in the grass did the little maiden kneel. Genetic determinism, what a silly idea. Looking over the hedge before me, I espy a snow-white mountain lamb with a maiden at its side. This design without a designer. Molecules jostling, animals maximise chance of reproduction, humans minimise, optimise nature by 4 million years of evolution, imprinted human beings with dynamic drive to reproduce. Life wants to live. This design without a designer, self-replication, the random jostle, scant punctured architect and the bee with no brain. This design without a designer, this oversized human brain with consciousness and will, able to opt out or modulate this nature boy. There was a boy, a strange boy. This genetic drive to reproduce with material not of its own choosing. The equation of self-interest, the equation of small difference, big fight. The equation of big difference, small fight. Science is provisional. 250,000 years by the rivers of DNA. This nature boy, there was a boy, there was a strange boy. Selection, pressures of time, this design without a design, errors, variations, shuffles, reshuffles, sex reproduction, splits, spontaneous chemical accident. This single common ancestor, this boy, this nature boy, there was a boy, strange, enchanted, dynamic stability, molecules, 2, 4, 8, exact copies, Life wants to live, Wordsworth pastoral postcode, the lamb, while from her hand and ears and his tail with pleasure shook, this design without a designer, this nature boy, the sheep's adder, the bleating lamb of English poetry, unfertilized egg had its own nucleus removed, species nature with material not of its own choosing, power and love combined, it's useless. Venial. This nature boy, drink pretty creature, drink, she said, in such a tone. This. This was a Writers' Forum book that was produced after Cobbin's passing and dedicated to Bob Cobbin, but also Bill Griffiths, who he persuaded me over years to visualise after doing a number of illustrations and cartoony things for his own poetry. I also sort of checked out so many representations of Beowulf, just about everything from Victoria Tomes right up to Neil Gaiman's original script for the what was actually to become the movie of 2007, and that's the Beowulf cartoon. The cartoon emerges out of Beowulf, not as just a sort of ancient piece of text, but as something that's sort of really ongoing to the 21st century and beyond. But it's now catalogued as Beowulf : cartoon. It's, I mean, the fits are actually broken up into three sections, as you probably know. The battle with Grendel, with Grendel's mother, and then the dragon. And I've also incorporated a visual horde into this. I'll just read up. I actually recorded this for Archive of the Now, but I foolishly used the word friend when it should have read themed. It's one of the things that happens if you try to sort of run up a whole series of things. But he seized the weapon from the wall, he lifted it high above his and swung it one circular will and energy, using every measure of his body and mind. And that's actually the cartoon of Grendel's mother. I think, you know, that it seems like a demon, but I think there's something actually really friendly now. It's 10 years since this was actually produced, so it's the 10th anniversary of the book, and I think that's sort of a reason why I've hauled it here to Manchester tonight. The blade met its final point of contact on the neck of the horrible half-goddess. Beowulf heard her bone crack. She fell immediately and didn't move. No breath or pulse caused even the tiniest tremor. Beowulf knew he had delivered a death blow to the she-savage of the lake. Watchful of other sea foes, he noticed an inner hole inside the underwater chamber. Laying upon a gigantic seabed in the submerged hall, Beowulf found the dead body of Grendel. Using the mammoth sword, Beowulf lopped off the beast's head and holding it by its wiry coils buried within its skull, returned to the surface of the lake. And he then returns to Heorot with the head of Grendel, and Hrothgar then decides it's time to sort of really celebrate this second conquest of Beowulf and these monsters or things. Hrothgar spoke. In Denmark there are men who are truthful and right about things. There are good men. But this Geatish hero standing before us is a great man. You have won fame, Beowulf, and your fame is spreading across the wider world. A fame earned through patience and prudence, rare qualities in one so young. You shall have everything I promised you in gifts and honours, and more. I foretell you will be a hero and protector to your people, as you have been to mine. There have been brave and mighty warriors among our people, but who has achieved the fame of our young friend, even by their middle years? Pride, lack of generosity, and self-seeking are flaws in lesser warriors. Let the brave Geat be a model to all young men. Thank you, Beowulf. Hrothgar spoke more. Raise your cups to the glory of the hall. Drink, drink to the heart, to Heorot, to the joys of the most splendid feasting hall, this side of Asgard. Let the fest continue. Never were such displays of emotion expressed in the great hall. Celebrations stretched beyond dusk and nightfall, beyond midnight and twilight. No fiends that night interrupted the snoring men. As Odin placed light in the sky that morn, Beowulf decided to return to South Sweden to his own king, Hugelac. Beowulf spoke. It's time for us to go home, to return to the kingdom of Geat then. I thank you for treating us well, for your gifts and honours. If I can do more for you, say the word. I will use weapons against your foe if any horror threatens your kingdom again. And I hear about it from afar. If more grim monsters enter Heorot's door, I will bring you 1,000 thanes to fight them. King Hugelac of Geatland, my uncle and companion, will give as many arms and warriors I need to conquer your enemy. Quick would I be to arrive here. If your young son Rethric comes to the military academy of Geatland to be taught the skills of combat, he will find many friends waiting for him. Better to learn tactics of war abroad than at home. I can testify to this. Hrothgar spoke. Beowulf, if Hugelac's own young heir and future King Heardred was cut down in his prime, woe betide, you would make a worthy successor as King of the Geats. Beowulf, I will be your friend always. Dane folk and Geat folk will be your friends always. Hrothgar presented Beowulf with even more gifts, and then he embraced him. Tears of sadness fell from the grey beard's eyes. Hrothgar spoke more. I'd like you to stay, but I'm old, for I know. My brain and belly have softened into jelly. I'm as useless as a wet fart in combat. Don't get old, Beowulf. It is a tragic thing. Everything falls apart at once. Go, go! I will not detain you any longer. Speed now, and safety. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. I've produced these casual readings over a period of time, and I mean, one of the things is after Zimzala is everything becomes an object, even these pieces of paper. But this, I mean, one of the things that this was actually a blog on MySpace during the era of does anyone remember MySpace? Probably a few gigging musicians may, but they wiped the whole of the blog off, but I've actually managed to retain the text, which I won't read, but it's actually published in one of the 20th century forms, which is a paperback book. David Miller and Reality Street did the Alchemist's Mind, and these really are objects. I've got another object here. It's the reading group, or the casual reading group, as I really prefer to rename it. There's a blurb on it, and it actually says, "Where the book ends, the stories begin." But if you paraphrase that cover strap line to Where the stories begin, so do pop culture reference and product placements. I've actually used a highlighter, which is something I learned from artist Sarah Jacobs, who I've been working in collaboration with very, very heavy material, actually, probably heavier than Alison's heaviest material. This is just one. I'll just read this. Susan had told her a story months ago about Alex, greasy, angry, and monosyllabic at 15. He had been asked to choose a poem to recite in a drama showcase at school. He had learned by heart and delivered Philip Larkin's "This Be the Verse," which began, "They fuck you up, your mum and dad," and had earned him untold street cred with his classmates, an A+ for expression from his drama teacher, and a week of detentions from the headmaster. That's Iguana of Gove. Thanks, Karen. What have I got?
How much have you got?
Yeah. Casual reading 11. I've actually read the other room page. It's audio-video page, and this is actually this is really is experimental on the spot because this is either or OR. And it's for Scott, James and Tom, James, Tom and Scott, Tom, Scott and James, Tom, James and Scott, James, Scott and Tom, and Scott, Tom and James. And it's a thank you, and it's an honour to be invited to the other room because I think the big London batch was about 2010. And this theme of location, because looking at the other room webpage on a screen, you know, they take on an unreality. Things like the screen against a curtain window, or the background of the wood panelled wall, knee waist view, camera angles right, frame portrait or frame posters, hung, changing images, prose with Robert Shepherd, screen in the dark, or Gerald Manley Hopkins, or Sarah Cruz Ladybug screensaver, or 35 Bob Cobbinger Celebration, Adrian Slatcher Bangs wood panel, performing the letter N from ABC of Sound, or 34 Nathan Jones Sits Down to Read, and Frank Cutner Coming Soon, or 32 Helmut Glenk Sartorial Apparatus, or 33 Studio Workshop with 2 cameras, or 31 Becky Kremin reads against background of Ladies Loo, or 30 Andrea Brady reading against pastel cornices, open caskets of pink and blue, or 29 window screen with sheet, or 27 Vanessa Place stands reading from lectern against screen, or 25 Steve McCaffrey sits at table, or 24 Geraldine Monk's issue with audio microphone technique at Leeds Art Gallery venue, Lucy Sherman poem read by Kerry Etta, window background, blazing walls gilded, sudden suburban stillness, Laurie Woodcock sharing book page lunch with Scott Thurston. Technical difficulties mean that this reading is available in audio only. Or 17 on Vimeo, Jeff Hilson reading in Portal against beige walls. Or 14, Holly Pester, click here to open the film on the bigger screen. Discover Adore, your shoppable fashion magazine, join for free. Or 13, Sophie Robinson reads against a mirror, look for reflection to check she isn't a vampire. James Davis coming soon. Or 11, does Michael Haslam need microphone woodness? Or 10, Sean Bonney reading against window in daylight, location of parasol reading, Offaby. Or Francis Crook reading against window in daylight, location of parasol advertising Swedish cider. Or 8, does Alex Davis need a microphone? Or 7, Tim Atkins, click here to open the film on a bigger screen. Discover Adore, your shoppable fashion magazine, join for free. Or 6, Richard Barrett reading at fire exit, keep clear. 9, technological meltdown. Or Gerald Manley Hopkins. Or 4, via Caroline Bedville's straightforward pathing. Or 3, Maggie O'Sullivan filmed overhead. Or 2, Inga Christensen's pub background noise. Or 1, Stephen Alex introduced Tom Jenks. Or Gerald Manley Hopkins. Or, sorry, this video doesn't exist. Yeah, the other, I think, sort of giants of the 20th century, Bill Griffiths. I mean, these are ghosts. I actually work with ghosts. This is ballad for Jeff Nuttall. Jeff Nuttall died January 2004. Through work in 1960s International Times, IT or IT, and Writers' Forum Press, the notion of visual, verbal, cartoon and the zine all collapse into one singular poetic form. His pioneering Physiodelics, My Own Mag, Oscar Christ and the Immaculate Conception often came from different beat inspirations and source materials to North American underground comics, with origins in US pulps, Tijuana Bibles, 8-page sex cartoons, sick humour and horror comics. Nuttall's poetry and prose fiction wasn't populist, but as broadsheet critic in emerging multicultural poetry scene, he produced puff-friendly observations of poets' work, including a young Bill Griffiths. Nuttall's urgent, spidery style of drawing was conventional in terms of technique, yet every scratch of Jeff's pen and splodge of ink seemed to represent paraliterary challenge to text-heavy editorial regimes, determined to edit out marks interfering, mocking, obscuring, or not doing job in illustrating body verbal. Bob Cobbins' Writers' Forum published last of Nuttall's poetic supper moves, unlike Viper, along with Jeff's own chapbook compilation of 1960s reprints in March 2002. Jeff Nuttall enjoyed parallel careers as teacher in secondary modern and art school education, and as actor in several TV sitcoms and films. As well as a definitive Friar Tuck, he played Dr. Mikhail Arkov in James Bond movie The World Is Not Enough. He plays dead for most of his time on screen. This is a movie where Robbie Coltrane plays Zukovsky, and as Jeff Olson speculates, a Nuttall suggestion to script doctoring team. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got the object here. I've done a zine for April 2014, which I think actually I'll probably finish off. It's here. I've got a really sort of complicated relationship with forms, you know, image, sound, zines, the whole thing actually. I don't really like when they're institutionalised. And this may be the last zine I do, but there's a. This is my introduction to a whole new sort of generation of zinesters. My name is Michael Weller. In 2012, I made my first photocopied zine for over 30 years, The Superheroes of Croydon. Resolving an urge to do basic print after the UK's 2011 riots brought international notoriety to South London's unofficial capital. This sounds terribly Croydon-centric, doesn't it? West Reading anyway. A few months later, in mid-2012, a YouTube clip of Russia's Pussy Rioters hit the internet. Young English poets were promptly inspired to compose in spirit of the young women's defiance in face of oppression. In the case of Nadia Katya Masha, Vladimir Putin, characterized as President KGB in the Weller verse of my slow fiction, authoritarian tactic realized since the beginning of an imperialist global strategy. I made my poem for Pussy Riot double-sided single-sheet Ida Lupino comics. It was a second issue of the title, the first being a Superheroes of Croydon news zine. It was an honour to have the zine reprinted in English pens, Cassicus and Poems of Pussy Riot, reduced to pixelated legibility, but I kind of like that. Zine Events 2012 made attending South London Zine Fest a requirement. South West London Zine Collective had a table and I introduced myself to Fliss Collier, purchasing her Still Distilled, dedicated to her late grandfather. Fliss entitled another of her zines with a word that appeared in a dream, Athamora. I met up with Fliss for a SW London zine meet the next month, December, at an HMV Curzon Cinema bar in the area. She had borrowed a self-published Bill Griffiths zine-like publication from London's Saison Poetry Library. On leaving, I found a copy of the artist's DVD on the floor of the bar to shoplift. Yeah, this is yeah, as expected. Is there life after glitter glam? The young female Russian photojournalist spoke excellent English and Mike Weller was up for an interview. It was time the record was put straight. Born in the late 1980s, Nadia Balaklava was one of the youngest staff members on local free paper, the Croydon Reporter. The Reporter's editor, calling splash page for the fiction, was only turned 50 himself. Page learned Mick Weller still lived locally and asked Nadia if she'd do a feature. Nadia admitted to Mike she only knew David Bowie from a movie she loved, Labyrinth. She had the collector's edition on DVD. Nadia knew nothing about Bowie's work in pop and rock. She kept on getting him mixed up with Mick Jagger. Don't call him Mick Bowie in your article there, Major. I can understand if you do. Everybody was a Mick in those days. Mick Ronson, Mick Farron, Mick Rock, Mick Haggerty, Mick Fleetwood, Mick Gold, Mick Weller. I get it, Nadia said. I don't think anybody under the age of 25 will be remotely interested anyway. Mike believed this likely to be true. With copy for Croydon Reporter nicely set in Times Roman, it didn't make Mike's story true, but the Reporter's owner, Earthco Global Communications Network, Department of News and Information, the local story was still a story, fact or fiction. You would pass 68-year-old Mick Weller on a Penn Street or on a shopping trip to Croydon's Westfield without a second glance. He looks like any gentleman of retirement age. But despite his outwardly average appearance, Mick worked with John Dagger when the rock and style god first fell to earth as a schoolboy. In our English Heritage series, Nadia Balaklava tells the story. Over half a century ago, Mick Weller was classmate at Croydon Technical School for Boys, now Ravenstor Academy, with Deb Bricton's Goblin King, Glitterglam, or John Dagger. Ken Tapley is his real name. Nobody therefore is better qualified to tell the story of Dagger's days in Deb Bricton's suburbs than Mick Weller. Although Dagger left Deb Bricton after his breakthrough fifth album, The Life and Death of Glitter Glam and the Sires and Titan, Mick was a designer of Dagger's third LP, The Man Who Fell to Earth. This was Dagger's only album to have 4 different covers by 4 different designers. Mick Weller drew a cartoon for Dagger's sleeve when he was found, remember, along with Dagger and John's first wife, Debbie, of Deb Bricton Arts Lab. Something of a jack of all trade, Mick has been a painter, photographer, poet, actor, vocalist with tribute band Cliff Pent and the SC20s, a cartoonist, illustrator, sci-fi fanatic, disco DJ and alternative stand-up comic. Now he plans to become a writer. The title of Mick Weller's forthcoming book on John Dagger will be called Is There Life After Glitter Glam? That's fucked everything up. He didn't blame Nadia Balaklava or a middle-aged editor. Mick should never have agreed to do an interview with the Croydon Reporter after the way the paper treated artist Cat Stelling, dropping his superheroes of Croydon after Sterling lettered his August 11, 2011 submission, best thing since the riots. I've got to return, so yeah, it's not. Somewhere amongst these objects, I'm missing, I said, but syllable is thine. Every stroke of his dead limb sounded like a coffin tap. On life and death, this old man. White curtain his weight, long-togged Scaramouche opened all his sills and vials. Nimble as a cat. Put thy live leg in the place where mine once was. Strange thoughted sometimes. Dashing the rattling lightning links, part changed my flesh since that time. Exposed to the sound waves. This mechanical system soon gave way to the electrical method of transmitting and recording sound, which involves ow, body sound, electrical impulse. A microphone is a transducer. It can convert acoustical energy.
This mechanical system soon gave way to the electrical method of transmitting and recording sound both to the groove, their acoustical and to the groove through electrical impulses. A microphone is a transducer. It can convert acoustical energy into electrical power either by direct with the pick up diaphragms to collect electrical energy. They fall into two basic categories according to whether one sides of the diaphragm are exposed to the sound waves.
Exposed to the sound waves.
Exposed have exposed their diaphragm like the Eustachian in the ear. Exposed to the sound waves.